One of the most painful thoughts many women carry around food is this: I just can't trust myself. And actually, it's not just with food, but with habits, with consistency, with the promises you make to yourself. You might be someone who is reliable in so many areas of life. You show up for work, you show up for other people, you keep commitments, you handle responsibilities. And yet, when it comes to the things like your health, your routines, or your relationship with food, it can feel like something inside you is unpredictable. You tell yourself you will do something, and then a few days later, you don't do it. You say this week will be different, but somehow the same patterns return. And after enough of those moments, a belief starts forming. Maybe I just don't have the discipline other people have. Maybe I'm someone who simply can't trust myself. But there's something most people never learn. Self-trust isn't a personality trait. It's something some people naturally have and others don't. Self-trust is built or broken through patterns. And many of the patterns that seem like they should create discipline actually destroy self-trust instead. So today I want to talk about the self-trust skill no one really teaches you, what actually builds it and what quietly breaks it, and why the place many women feel this loss of trust the most is the relationship with food. Because food becomes the mirror where all those broken promises show up. But once you understand how self-trust actually works, something shifts. The cycle stops feeling like a character flaw and starts looking like a pattern you can finally change. If you're new here, hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a certified holistic health coach and currently studying for a master's in nutrition and integrative health. And I work with women who feel stuck in emotional eating, binge-restrict cycles, and that frustrating pattern of starting over and over again. Women who are incredibly capable in so many areas of life, but feel like food is the one place where they can't seem to trust themselves. On this channel, we talk about the deeper layers behind those patterns, not just nutrition, but nervous system regulation, hormones, mindset, and identity shifts. Because most struggles with food are not about knowledge, they're about patterns. And one of the most important patterns underneath everything is self-trust. Let's unpack what that actually means. First, let's talk about why self-trust matters more than discipline. Most people think the key to changing habits is discipline, but discipline without trust doesn't last. Think about any relationship where trust is broken. You don't suddenly rebuild it with stricter rules. You rebuild it with consistency, with predictability, with small actions that prove over time that the system or relationship is stable again. Your nervous system works exactly the same way. When the promises you make to yourself repeatedly collapse, your brain stops believing those promises. So when you say, this week I will do better, I will be different, a part of you already expects the plan to fail. And that expectation changes your behavior in subtle ways. You hesitate, you overthink, you feel pressure, you swing between trying harder and giving up. This is why so many women describe feeling like two different people, the one who makes the plan and the one who breaks it. And one of the places where this tension becomes most visible is food. Because food decisions happen multiple times every day. Every skipped meal, every binge, every reset, every promise to start again tomorrow, to start again on Monday. Each moment either strengthens self-trust or it weakens it. And over time, the nervous system starts forming a conclusion. Can I rely on myself or not? Once we understand the dynamic, the conversation about food changes completely. Because the goal stops being perfect eating, the goal becomes rebuilding trust with yourself again. Now, how self-trust gets broken? Most people think self-trust breaks because of binge eating itself. But the truth is, the binge usually is the result of broken trust, not the cause. Self-trust breaks when the promises you make to yourself repeatedly get abandoned. And this happens in subtle ways. You tell yourself, I will eat breakfast tomorrow, but then the morning is busy and you skip it again. You say, I will stop eating when I'm full, but stress hits and you eat past fullness. You promise yourself, this week I will finally be consistent, but by Thursday the plan collapses and the weekend becomes chaotic once again. Every one of those moments sends a signal to your nervous system. Your word to yourself is not reliable. And when that happens repeatedly, the brain starts expecting inconsistency, which is why the thought appears, I can't trust myself. But now here's the deeper problem. The response to that belief is often more control, more rules, more discipline, more restrictions, which creates more pressure. And pressure almost always leads to another breaking point. So the cycle continues. Broken promise, control, pressure, rebound, self-doubt, broken promise again. This is why so many women feel trapped in the same loop for years. Not because they're weak, but because the strategy they're using keeps reinforcing the very thing they're trying to fix. Now, why control makes self-trust worse? This part is incredibly important. When you don't trust yourself around food, the instinct is to control food more tightly. You create rules, you remove certain foods, you structure your eating rigidly. You try to eliminate every possible risk. And for a short time, it can feel like it works. But the nervous system interprets control as pressure. Pressure increases stress, stress increases cravings, and cravings eventually overpower the system. So then when the binge actually happens, it feels like a confirmation of the belief. See, I knew it, I couldn't trust myself. But the binge wasn't proof that you can't be trusted. It was a reaction to the pressure. And this is the paradox. The tighter you try to control food, the less your nervous system trusts the system you created. And when the nervous system doesn't feel safe, instability becomes impossible. So rebuilding self-trust requires something that sounds counterintuitive at first. Less control, more consistency. So what does self-trust actually look like? Most people imagine self-trust as perfect discipline, but real self-trust looks very different. It looks like eating regular meals when yesterday was messy, not punishing yourself after overeating, responding to hunger instead of ignoring it, allowing flexibility without spiraling, continuing after mistakes instead of starting over. This one is very important. In other words, self-trust is not built through perfection. It is built through predictability. Your nervous system starts relaxing when it learns food will still be there tomorrow. Mistakes don't lead to punishment. Support doesn't disappear when things go wrong. When those patterns become consistent, the urgency around food starts fading because the system finally feels stable. Now finally, here's the self-trust skill no one teaches you. Here's the skill that changes everything. Responding instead of reacting. Reacting looks like, oh, I messed up, so I will restrict tomorrow, I make new plans to do better. And responding looks like, well, that didn't feel great. What does my body actually need right now? Reacting is emotional and immediate. Responding is curious and supportive. And every time you respond instead of reacting, you strengthen trust within yourself. And this goes for any area of your life. And it's actually also similar to how trust forms in relationships. If someone only shows up when things are perfect, well, you don't trust them. Trust forms when someone stays present even when things are messy. So why do we expect self-trust to be any different? Your nervous system learns the same way. Now an important reminder. Rebuilding trust doesn't happen through big declarations. It happens through small, consistent actions. Eating breakfast when part of you wants to skip it. Stopping mid-snack and asking yourself what you actually need. Choosing a regular meal after a binge instead of restricting. Allowing food without turning it into a rebellion and panic and whatever. These moments may feel small and even meaningless, but each one sends a message to your nervous system. You are safe, you are supported, you're not going to be abandoned by your own rules. And when the nervous system believes that message consistently, something surprising happens. Food stops feeling like a constant battle. The reason why so many women struggle with food is not because they lack knowledge. It's because their relationship with themselves has been shaped by years of pressure, rules, and broken promises. And self-trust doesn't return overnight, but it does rebuild when your actions become calmer, steadier, and more supportive. Because the moment your nervous system starts trusting that food and support are predictable, the urgency around food begins to soften. If this conversation resonated with you and you want to understand your emotional binge eating patterns more clearly, I created a free quiz that helps you with exactly that. It's called What Type of Emotional Eater Are You? It will help you identify what drives you overeating, why certain moments feel harder than others, and what your body might actually need. You can take it in just a few minutes. The link is in the description below. And if this video helped you see your patterns differently, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. And tell me in the comments, what is one promise you want to start keeping with yourself again? Well then, lots of love and until next time.